Okay, so we are live. Wow, this is good. Let me check the page. Yes, we are in screen. Let me get the link, copy link. Yeah,
We'll start at 4 exact, right?
right. I have texted you the Facebook, this thing, live link.
Okay.
So I'm sharing in my own timeline. Uh-huh. So, yeah,
I think it's almost time, so let's begin.
yes, just give me a moment. Okay. So we already got 5 years. That's really great, actually, as a starting. Yeah. So yeah, let's just start, Namrata. The first session of safe, right? Let's just start from the
Right.
introduction part.
So, good morning, good evening, good afternoon from everyone who is joining us today for this live session. And as you all know, this is our first session. So, this is going to be a very introductory sort of a session, but equally important. So, this is going to be a series where we will be talking about the concerns related to children, sexual harassment, old age cultural practices. We will have lawyers, we have a psychologist today, we will have people from different areas, doctors also, who are working on these issues and their different perspectives on how parents or guardians or children themselves need to protect themselves. And we of course have Dr. Nabanita Borah with us here today. She is also she's actually the one who came up with this concept, and she got all of us together as a team. Now, today's session primarily focuses on how teachers play a very significant role as the primary educators when it comes to talking to children and building themselves as human beings, and also protecting them if something goes wrong. So, Nabanita, what do you have to say about that?
Okay. So before going to that, let me introduce Namrata. So here we have Namrata Sharma as a speaker, and yeah, Namrata, can you please introduce yourself? A little
Okay,
bit about
so
yourself, your work, and the
absolutely,
expertise,
yes.
and how you were introduced involved with us.
Yes. So I am a counseling psychologist by profession. Currently, I am working with YWCA of Delhi as a counselor. I work with destitute women, young women from different sections of the society. They come to me with psychosocial issues. Some of them are survivors of domestic violence. So my area of work focuses mostly on women and children, and I deal with from mild to severe to profound kinds of issues of mental health. I'm also an advocate of mental health, a young leader who promotes women's safety, talks about women's issues. And that's how I came in touch with Nabanita, because safe was one of those areas which completely fulfills my purpose of being a counseling psychologist. So that's about me.
Okay. And a little bit about me. I am whoever I do not know who else is there as a viewers. So who doesn't know me? I'm Nabanita Borah, and a science communicator and a mental health advocate as well. And I'm in Seoul right now, Seoul, South Korea, involved with SAFE as a communicator. So as Namrata mentioned already that our main issues that we want to talk about our children or with our children. In the first session, we will be focusing on the role about the teachers, that how they can, they can play the role about the primary education, right? Right, Namrata?
Right,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. So, to the viewers, if we have audience from different background, the Apunaloke or Homiyat or Hindi or English in any of the languages, we can address questions from these three languages. So feel free to ask questions from any of these three languages. Yeah. So yeah, yes, Namrata, where
Yeah.
we were actually. Sorry.
So, Nabanita, I think we should begin with the talking to the audience and discussing about some issues that, first of all, I feel like forming a rapport with our audience is very, very important. And they will feel like they are one of us when we will probably discuss about issues. Like I mentioned earlier, these issues are not something that happen to specific sectors or people who have like special qualities or who belong to specific areas or sectors. It is happening to everyone, not just to women and girls, but also to boys and men. So everyone has suffered with some sort of sexual harassment, molestation, inappropriate touch, some catcalling, or being called out in the streets, being touched, or non-consensually held by a stranger. So these things have happened in public, private, and at homes as well. So never to forget that a lot of harassment cases begin at home. So I would like to ask you, have you ever come across or faced any such issues?
Yeah, that's honestly a very hard question to be answered, especially in a public forum. And being an Assamese girl, probably I have heard most of the time, I mean, most of my life, this very thing that, okay, ignore this or don't speak out. People will
Right.
shame you or something like that. Yeah, I mean, I can go back till the moment I can remember in my childhood. I have different experiences. Okay, let's talk about this family friend we have. Uh, so that person used to visit our home almost every day. And I was probably a 2.5-year-old girl or a 3-year-old most. And he always tricked me to touch his genital by saying that I have a toffee for you in my pocket. And when I realized now that probably he was aroused most of the time, a 3-year old girl, I got
Yeah.
the sense that something is wrong. But this had happened for a long time, probably till I'm 7 or 8 years old. Then the things had changed to different things, and yeah, then different things started happening. And but or at home there were like my uncles. I had seen exhibitionism. So he will just open up his towels and expose his genital to
Yeah.
me or some of our, yes, me. And then there was another uncle who basically groped me by my chest. So yeah, this kind of unpleasant things were there in my childhood, and this is not really a very pleasant moment to talk about.
Absolutely. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for sharing, Navanita. It takes a lot of courage to go back and re experience, because a lot of people suffer from trauma so similar to this that they are, and it hasn't been resolved yet. So, whenever you talk about it, it just comes back with all those emotions and it kind of disturbs you again. So, thank you for sharing. And let me just tell you all, if you are commenting anything, if you are talking to us, through the chat, this is a safe space. We will respect each other's comments, each other's experiences. So, like I do Nabanita's, because I have had many similar experiences, and just to share a few from my end. I have had similar experiences of exhibitionism where a stranger just comes in front of me and jumps and exposes his genital areas. And I've had experiences in public transports where I have been touched inappropriately on the chest or in the behind region. And to be very honest, I was not very old at that time. I was pretty much in my early teens. So, like I said, this is not just happening to women, it is happening to young children. So, I think this is a good enough base that we have created, that despite being a scientist, being a doctor, being a psychologist, we as women have went through so much. So, I think with that, how about we move on to our first pressing question of the session?
Yeah, the pressing questions should be when I retrospect my childhood, and when I am like now involved with safe and then going through the topics, then I realize that a child, I mean, beyond a child, I mean, his or her parents, they spend most of the time in the school, right? I mean, beyond
Right.
a child, the home definitely should be a safe space for a child, but beyond that, the school comes probably the second most safest place. So, yeah, I mean, apart from the parents, it's always the teachers who stays in contact in touch with the child. So let's discuss about that. That if something happened to a child, probably at home by a family friend, by some relatives, probably some strangers, right? As you said, we have some psychological, we develop some psychological issues, we get some psychological impact, right?
Right.
At that time, how a child behave, how a teacher can identify, why it's really important for a teacher, right, to involve with the
Yes.
child, to monitor, right? So those kind of things, since this is a very introductory session and we will come with similar sessions in the
Yes.
future, so let's discuss some introductory points. Why should teachers stay I mean aware, or
Why
they should
should they
know
be
how to.
more involved in a child's
Right,
life? Yes,
right, right.
because I absolutely agree with what you just said about the fact that people's, teachers are the, according to me, I belong to the 90s generation. So I was always taught that a teacher or a guru is a second parent, not just because they are teaching us good lessons, but also because the amount of time we spend with them. And when I talk about time, like 5 to 6 hours in junior school for young children, a teacher is constantly in interaction with these children. And it may be 10 or 15 children in the class, but those 10, 15 children are constantly under the supervision of that teacher. So the amount of time a teacher spends is nearly as much the child spends time at home. So she's playing a similar role as a parent. Second of all, they are great role models. So, a primary role of a teacher is not just to educate, but also to find out the best in a child. So, let's say a teacher has come across a child who is good in arts and craft, but for the past few days, the child is not doing that well. The teacher knows very well the qualities of that child, and now the child has suddenly stopped drawing or he's not interested. So, this can be a red flag that something wrong must be going on. It's not necessary that it is the family or the child is being sexually harassed. It can be a very small thing, such as being scolded at home. So that is how close teachers are to the kids. They are constantly having direct interactions. Whereas if we talk about homes, parents come from their offices, the child is at home. Maximum, how much would you be talking to a child? 1 hour, 2 hours. So the comparison between the two is huge, and therefore the significance or the importance of teachers in this area is very, very, it's key.
Right. Right. And do you want to categorize, like, if we consider the teachers, then there will be like lower primary teachers for a particular age group, then there will be teachers for particular age group, like middle school teachers,
Yeah,
then, yeah, high school teachers or yeah,
right.
that way, right?
So, teachers, when I say the time spent with teachers in the primary school, there is one teacher for the entire day. She is the class teacher. She will teach you all subjects. So, the interaction between these teachers is direct, it's constant throughout the day. She will know the child through and through. Now, as you move on to the middle school, you must have seen that private schools have counselors for junior, middle, and senior schools. Okay, but there are many schools who don't. I worked in government schools also, and I have seen there is only one counselor for the entire school. So, but if your child is in junior school, the teacher will play the role of a counselor, a parent, and a teacher as a whole, because she will have constant contact with the child. When you go to middle school, the subject teachers will change, but still there will be one class teacher who will more or less spend a lot of time with the classroom. So here also the child can rely on the class teacher or the school counselor or the friends. And once you reach senior school, you must have seen that, see, in senior school, the requirement of counselor or the interaction is much more, because in senior school, you don't have one specific teacher on whom you can rely on. So there, the shift happens between the counselor and the teacher. So I think
Right.
for teachers of junior school, the role is very key. It's very primary, because those are the building blocks of a person's life.
Right. If we see the uh, child psychological point of view, okay, so there is this stage like toddler stage when the child would like learn from the parents, probably family, friends, whoever very close to the
Right.
child, right? Then the child start going to school, and then they come across their teachers, their friends parents,
Mhm.
probably a bigger crowd, right? Then that teenagers, when they have another bigger circle, they started
Yes.
growing their
Yes.
bigger circle, right? So but how do you feel, which age basically we should care most to
Right.
teach is
The critical age.
critical age, right? Critical age.
Yes, yes. So I feel like every age is critical, but the maximum amount of physical or psychological changes that happen are during the 9 to 12 years of age. And that can also be the beginning of the teenage years or the hormonal imbalance or adolescent age. And this is a very critical age, because here the child is now stepping out of the his small group. He is now beginning to make friends. He will start to identify himself as a single individual, the real self. So there a lot of emotional changes which are linked to the self confidence of the child. Maybe if he is a part of a group, there must be children who will do certain things, who will wear certain kinds of clothes, and the child will feel a little jealous, or there might be a little too many comparisons between children. So self confidence, the development of self identity, self image, body image is a huge issue during these years. So children like to explore. This is the age where children like to explore, and that's where they try to become a part of the group and do things that are not correct for them. They do inappropriate things which might cause them harm later on, like involving in sexual activities or kissing somebody, or getting involved with seniors who are maybe who don't think very well of these young kids. They just want to use them, and ultimately these young kids tend to, um, I wouldn't say they tend to get pregnant, or boys tend to get raped, but they kind of get traumatized, if not that severe, if not those severe kind of situations. Apart from that, the hormonal changes create a lot of curiosity. So they go on the internet, they're looking at different kinds of videos, images, and they compare themselves with, the images with themselves. So these girls, they pretend to be bigger than their age, or these boys tend to get in touch with older boys, and they teach them inappropriate things that are not right for the boys of that particular age. And the most important thing that is lacking in schools, and the thing that teachers must focus on, according to me, is the awareness about the sexual education. Now, there is a difference between sex education and sexual education, but we won't go into the detail about that. I feel like strongly that children need to be educated about their reproductive organs and the opposite sex as well. Why are girls only taught about their vaginas and boys only taught about their, genital area, about their penises? Both children should know, both genders should know about both kind of reproductive systems. So I think these are things that usually happen during the adolescent age, and teachers must be aware of it because they will constantly be in touch with the kids. They will come across these issues. I've seen teachers hushing away these topics. So I think it's high time that we start talking about these problems. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think this is really high time because yeah, that well, thing you said, because I remember I had seen some videos, random in somebody was in interviewing random people on the street
Mm-hmm.
about people women's menstruation cycle and everything, and most of the people, they do not know what it is and why it's happening. And I remember in our during our school days, we had a chapter on it, probably in ninth grade, and so there were two chapters, one on this and one on the reproduction. Reproduction
Yeah.
was still in the syllabus, but this menstruation was out of syllabus. I was actually discussing with my friend yesterday, how come our basic needs may change, right? When
Mm-hmm.
we are a child, there should be some basic things need to be taught us, right? Like
Right, right.
probably about our reproductive system. Those are basic, very basic knowledge. It doesn't go out of syllabus or doesn't come in the syllabus, right? It should
They're
be
going
there,
to
but
learn it anyway. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, they will learn it anywhere. And instead of getting some wrong information, is always probably better to fix, right? What a child for a particular age should be taught in a school, what way, right? When you talk about reproduction, there is nothing like when you wrong when you talk about sexual reproduction, correct? So
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, I think those harsh kind of thing, so is doing a lot of harm to us
Right.
actually,
Exactly.
right? So
Yes.
yeah.
And I think once we start talking about these issues, once teachers, and not asking teachers to give lectures, you cannot start talking to a young child about, sex right there and then. All I'm trying to say is that if a child is coming to you and they are telling you that something like this happened, for example, I saw my father hitting my mother today, do not ask the child to shut up. Do not say, okay, okay, it's fine, it's fine. No, try to understand the emotion behind that act. What is the child feeling? Because once you have shared the feeling and you have resolved it, the child can move on. But if these emotions are not resolved, they will keep on piling up. And like I have always said that very small things that happen during our childhood build us as human beings. Maybe the child now has latched on to the fact that my it is okay to hit a woman, or it is okay to hit my mother. So these things that start at a very young age. As teachers, as primary educators, I request you to just be good listeners, be supportive of the child's needs, and then work upon it. I'm not saying to go and interfere between the mother and the father, talk, just go and jump on them saying that why is there domestic violence happening at home. Everybody has issues, but how is it affecting the child? We need to focus on that. Our focus is on the children.
Yeah, I think I would like to add one more point, or probably rephrase. Being a support, I mean, instead of a supporter, probably they can. I mean, along with being a supporter, they
Yeah.
can probably become a very good observer. Because I think nowadays the schools, they conduct a lot of guardian teachers meeting, right? So yeah, I think in my time it was not very common thing, but nowadays I feel it's very common thing. So in that
Mhm.
scenario, probably sometimes we can observe if they keep. I mean, watching closely, they may all observe that a child probably who was earlier very polite
Yeah.
and suddenly started becoming very rude or misbehaving, right? Keep hitting with, I mean, hitting other
Yeah.
students, his or
Change
her
in behavior
friends.
patterns.
Change in
Yes.
behavior, right? Change in behavior. So if the teachers start learning, monitoring those children, and instead of
Yes.
like silencing them or scolding them, if they try to dig out what is happening behind the scene, basically. So
Yeah, and in
probably,
fact, there are a lot of activities also that teachers can do, a lot of assignments. If you just go online and you type activities, ice breaking activities, activities to elicit emotions or to promote healthy behavior, there are like millions, infinite activities that are, there are proper handbooks by UNICEF, by WHO. They have done an amazing job, and if you have want it in your particular language, there must be NGOs and organizations in your part of the world or city that might have those kinds of, um, booklets. There are so
right,
many activities you can do.
right. And I think, I don't know, just a random idea. Teachers, even though like probably not equipped to give some very concrete structured training, probably they can
Right.
uh, teach the students about the zones you mentioned in one of our discussion, right? Like red zone,
Yes.
green zone, orange zone, about the body autonomy, like how to no respect own our own body, right? So
Yeah.
those kind of things probably they can mention in very simple languages and in
Actually,
their
yes,
own class,
Namanita.
right?
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted you in between. But funnily enough, I when I was very young in my school, there were classes. We had separate subjects. I think it was called ethics, if I'm not wrong. I'm not sure what the subject was called, but they taught us about life skills. They taught us values like respecting others, interpersonal relationships, communicating openly, and I feel like we did not know the importance back then, but we need it now more than ever. We need it now. So I think it is a great, in fact, I would say if you go to your school's principal and you suggest something like this, it will be wonderful. I know it will be an extra added responsibility on the teacher's shoulder, but one class per week will be very beneficial. So like Navanita said about coming back to the zones, one very important aspect of building a strong minded, strong willed child is teaching them about their bodies. So, body positivity. And when Nabanita talked about red zone, orange zone, and green zone, you must have heard about the red zone and the green zones. If any of you have watched Amir Khan Satyamev Jayate or any other, you've taken training on parenting or sexual education, they must have talked about the red and green zones. I'll explain it quickly. These are zones on your body parts. That green zone will be a zone that is safe to be touched, such as your hands or your head, or probably your elbow, until your elbow, or somebody can touch your shoulders. For some children, shoulders is very close. Now, the red zone is that part of your body which cannot be touched by anybody, and not even your, if you are young, maybe your parents, but after a particular age, not even your parents. So, that will be the genital area, or the behind area, or the chest area, and the lips area. So, these are areas which cannot be touched by anyone. Now, according to me, there must be an orange zone. There is usually an orange zone also, which can be touched by your friends, probably, or when you come into a relationship with somebody at a teenage, in your teenage years. So that can be your cheeks, or that can be your shoulders. For some people, that can be your waist, probably, but only if you are giving them consent. We will be talking about this, and we will be coming up with more information about these red, orange, and green zone areas. We will talk about them in a little more detail, and yeah, I think that will be helpful for all the teachers. So start with the tiniest thing, and I'm sure it will help the children a lot.
Yeah, I think this is really great. uh,
Yeah.
Thank you, Namrata, for doing this, and as we discussed it, we will do it for 30 minutes. I
Yeah.
think, as you say, 30 minutes flies like really
Yeah,
quickly.
and I
And
think it
yes,
just quickly, I would like to give you a one-liner so that you can
yes,
take something home, and then I'll let Nabanita summarize whatever we have discussed. Um, to the teachers, I just want to say that you have a huge responsibility. I understand you build the future generations, but don't take it as a burden. Enjoy your work as psychologists, as any other person working in the social sector. They feel the burden of taking responsibility of a human being, but it is as enjoyable as well. So if you can make someone's life better by slightly focusing more, slightly observing the tiniest change in a child, I think that will just be the best thing you can do as a human being. So be very attentive, do your work 9 to 5 with all your dedication, and it will turn out to be very, very good. So, yeah.
yeah, yeah. With while you said it, basically, I currently remember my counselor. She said to me one particular thing that if I would have met you like 10 years back, so that a statement really matters, because if we would have been monitored by our teachers in our school days,
Yeah.
so probably much would have been changed by that time, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so if I have to summarize, as Namrata said, there is nothing to be considered as a burden, because I know teachers are already doing a very like awesome job with their children. Just did a bit extended work, and I think if they consider to view this particular thing like or learn or probably execute, so I think their effort will be like much more efficient with the
Yeah.
students, right?
Right.
So yeah, I think Namrata, we are we need to summarize today. I would like probably keep talking to you for another one
Yeah.
hour or so. This is really interesting, but yeah, let's call it a day for today,
Yeah.
and we will again keep coming uh, through
We will
face to
have
face.
another section.
Yeah, we
Yes.
will come like with a regular sessions at a regular interval. Probably our next session will be done with our legal expert, and about the legal perspectives. If something happens, where to, like, go room to report. If somebody doesn't like respond, then how the people should basically take care of the fact. And probably we would also like to see other aspect as well, like a social science aspect as well, why people start like basically becoming an offender, why people basically sexually harass not even women. I know, like even straight men also probably suffering from the
Yeah.
similar problem, but because of our social structure, we always try to ignore such kind of thing. So we will look into all these matters through short sessions. And so please keep follow us, encourage us, and
Yeah.
keep asking questions. We love questions. We will try to answer your questions. We got a very beautiful comment basically from Krishna Chatya. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
And চাই থাকিব, আমার পেজ to follow করে থাকিব. And yeah, so we will keep coming back. And thank you for
Until
being with
then,
us.
thank you.
Until then,
Yeah.
thank
Thank
you.
you all
Take
for
care.
joining us,
Yes,
and
stay
we'll see you
safe.
next time.
Yes.
Bye bye. Thank you,
Bye.
Nabanita.
Thank you, Namrata. Bye. Take care.